All right, so this is going to be a review of Gotti from 2018. It's the really terrible biopic for John Gotti, the gangster that was at the top of the Gambino crime family at a time. He was known as the Teflon Don. He's one of the most famous gangsters, and it's played by John Travolta in this. And yeah, this is terrible. It was the movie I gave the worst movie of the year to in 2018. I remember there was some controversy around it. It had a 0 Rotten Tomatoes score, and there was some things going on with Movie Pass and things like that. And I remember I finally got the chance to see it, and I was like, wow, people are right. This is a fucking mess. There's no real storytelling going on. It is just scene, just like randomly thrown together. It's a mess. It's directed by Kevin Connolly. He was E on Entourage. I've seen little bits and pieces of Entourage, including that shitty movie. I can tell the incompetence is all over the screen. So it starts off with John Travolta as Gotti from the grave telling the story. And then it transitions to Gotti in prison when he was dying from cancer. Gotti Jr. at that time is trying to make the decision of whether he wants to take the plea deal or not. So he wants to talk to his dad one last time. And he really wants to get out of the life, even though Gotti doesn't want him to plead down. So then it goes to him to the past, and it shows Gotti pulling his first hit. This guy that had kidnapped some kid or something. Then you see him get it made, and it pretty much just follows certain parts of his life, but like in a really messy, all over the place way. His son gets hit by a car and dies, and then they end up taking care of that guy. Gotti Jr., he goes to military school, gets into a fight, gets suspended. Eventually, he leaves military school and actually joins the family, and he becomes an earner. How they earn money in the family, I don't know. They don't really go into it. They can't sell drugs and things, so it's like, I guess maybe it's protection money. I don't know. Gotti has a right-hand man, pretty much his best friend in the family, Angelo. And he's a fuck up. And so there's incriminating information. And so there's tapes of him having certain conversations. And it's causing problems with the current head of the Gambino crime family. What's his name? Paul Castellano. And Gotti already doesn't like him. The other couples don't like him, other than one, I think his name was the Chin. Vincent DiCinzio or something like that. They call him the Chin. But Gotti gets permission from the other capos to pretty much take out Paul. And then after they do that, Gotti becomes the head of the Gambino crime family at that point. There's somebody underneath them that gets whacked at a certain point, and Angelo thinks that, okay, this is the Chin and some other people trying to come after you, Gotti. And so he does an unsanctioned hit on one of them. I think that was Gas Pipe Casso, I think. And it doesn't actually work. It's a failed hit. It's cartoonish the way it fails. I was laughing at it. And so that goes back to Angelo. And so he ends up getting put on the shelf because Gotti didn't want to kill him. And then he dies from cancer. He dies from cancer. The guy, Neil, one of the other people that Gotti's close to, he dies from cancer. And then later on, Gotti dies from cancer. I don't know if those two other guys died from cancer in real life, but at this point, it's looking like cancer is like spreadable, like it's an actual disease that you can catch from someone. There's also, I think his name was Willie. He turns out to have been an FBI informant, and somehow that gets Gotti off from a RICO case. I mean, you see Gotti in court or in jail at multiple points in this movie. Sometimes you have context for it, sometimes you don't. Eventually, they do get enough evidence to put Gotti away. They had wiretaps and bugs on his phones and things like that. They have incriminating conversations. And to solidify them getting him this time, Sammy the Bull actually rats on him, which did happen in real life. And that's how they put him away. So at that point, we're now at the point where he's about to die from cancer, and he's talking to his son. Just like in real life, his son, Gotti Jr., actually did take the plea. But they're still going after him, even after he served the time that he pleaded down to, because I guess they're just going after him. And Gotti did say that would happen. So they put some extra charges on him, some more charges. He didn't end up pleading to those ones. He actually had those go to court, and he gets cleared of those, and he gets reunited with his family. Let's start off with positives. So we got John Travolta as Gotti, and you can clearly tell there's passion in it. He is trying. All right, like he's giving it his all, and he ends up being pretty good. He rises above the terrible dialogue and the accent. The accents are like cartoonish, like they're so stereotypical, like Italian, like mobster. The way they're talking, you is now use. I'll talk to use later. Mouth is mount. There's a point where he's talking to his sons about like spaghetti and meatballs, the movie about a meatball or something.
Pizza or
I
something.
don't like ice cream.
Get fudge sticks. You love fudge sticks. Get
I
that.
don't like pizza either.
How about the movies? You like, what's that movie you like so much? About spaghetti, meatballs or something?
It's pretty much all terrible. Kelly Preston plays the wife, and she has that really bad accent too. But whatever. The worst actor in this, the worst performance in this is the son. Spencer Rocco LaFrocco is the actor. That's a hell of a name. He is not good in the movie. Also, I do like the framing device of him talking to his son before he dies from cancer. I don't think they did a good enough job with it, but that could be a way that we could have this story play out, or at least main events that involve Gotti and Gotti Jr. As they're having the back and forth conversation of whether he should plead down. I do like that. That was kind of an interesting way of doing this, but they don't really do it. It just kind of randomly pops up during the story, but it was interesting. And then also they do use real footage, news footage. They can't decide whether they want to fully just have it be news footage with the real John Gotti at points and things like that, or if they want it to just be little pictures and parts from the actual movie with the actors. But it was kind of interesting to see those moments. As somebody who kind of knows some stuff about Gotti, I looked up some stuff a couple days ago, but I don't really know everything. Like the guy that hit his kid with the car. They grabbed his ass outside of a diner. The diner owner saw it, and he was cooperating with police. They went there, sat down, stared at him for a little bit, and that's all it took. He got amnesia, and then he sold that diner and then moved. So, it's cool to see things like that. There's also, at the very end, you see some real footage of the reaction when he finally got sentenced, because he was a hero of the community for some reason. And like, they went crazy. They were rioting, they were breaking windows, they were attacking police officers. It was insanity. And that was also interesting to see. But they don't really do enough with that either. They don't even really say why they love him so much. There's one scene where he's shooting up fireworks. It's very obviously stock footage of fireworks, and and the cops come there. He's got people outside. The cops come there, and he's like, "Oh no, we're gonna fire up the fireworks." They want him to they want him to clear out, and he's like, "No, we got lawyers. We're all right." And the police officer's just like, "Oh damn it, Gotti, we'll get you next time." but that's it. All right, so let's get into it. Let's start off with the smaller things, the more technical stuff. The movie is ugly. It's shot really badly. There's not much artistry in the shot composition. It's the lighting is flat. The cinematography is also pretty flat. The movie just looks completely bland and ugly. It's not a good looking movie pretty much at all. And it also looks pretty cheap when it comes to the sets and the locations that they're in. It does look cheap. And one of the things that definitely made it feel cheap for me is that with John Travolta, he's obviously the star. He's obviously, playing the titular character in the movie, Gotti. But, with him, they do put in an time, effort, money to actually age him. He starts off, he has darker hair, he has smoother skin, and as time goes on, he gets gray hair. Eventually, when he's sick and dying, he does look old and sickly. They actually put effort into that. But with everybody else, maybe they have a little bit of gray in their hair, maybe they don't, but that's about it. That's about it, especially the Gotti Jr., Spencer Rocco LaFrocco, whatever. So he looks about 19 or 20 the entire movie long. And then, when he's talking to his father before he dies, he's supposed to be older. And he still looks pretty much the same. Even at the very end, when he's already served his time that he pleaded down to, you can clearly tell he looks the same. He still has the same face and everything. He just has glasses on and some gray in his hair. It's like, God damn, you didn't even try. There's also the score. It's largely pretty generic. It doesn't work. There's also the Pitbull of the whole situation. Pitbull, I think it starts and ends, if I remember right, with a rap song about Gotti from Pitbull. It's a terrible song, and it doesn't fit this movie. So that's another thing. But anyway, small things out the way. Like I said, this is a mess. It's incoherent. It's all over the place. And I'll give you some examples. So it starts off with Gotti telling the story from the grave. Then it goes over to him meeting his son before he dies from cancer. Then it goes over to him talking to who was the Don at that point? Carlo Gambino. Somebody kidnapped a kid and then killed the kid or something, and so this is payback for it. Whatever. Gotti goes there to get his, pull his first hit on that guy. Then it transitions back to Gotti before dying from cancer when he's talking to Gotti Jr. about the plea. But they're only talking about the plea. I don't remember them ever talking about what actually happened in the movie. So it feels like it's just thrown in there. But then it goes from that to him being in jail in the past and talking to his wife. They get into an argument. His kids want to dress up like cops for Halloween. He's like, no cops, we don't do cops. And I'm like, what is this storytelling? It's all over the place. It's just like this scene, then this scene, then this scene. And that goes throughout the entire movie where it's like, things are just happening, right? And it keeps cutting back to him talking to his son before he takes the plea. Like I said, when he talks to his son, they're not talking about what's happening in the past and what we're learning about. So it's barely really that much of a framing device for the entire movie for what we're seeing. So it might as well just be at the very end and we just tell the movie in chronological order. Then we could kind of like make this a little bit more coherent. There's also scenes that start and you just go into them and it happens over and over again. It happens pretty much throughout the movie, where you go into a scene and you have no idea the context of the scene. They're just in a place talking about something, a conversation that's already going, and you have no idea what they're talking about. It is bizarre. It's like, there's an audience that's supposed to be following this, right?
He doesn't have his head screwed on
What, he
straight.
just got off the boat yesterday? Who gave him permission to run book in Howard Beach?
I told him. I read him the
Well, why
riot
did
act.
you tell him?
I read him the riot
This motherfucker's
already.
on the phone talking about me, my name.
There's also a scene where he's in court. It's around the time where he first gets the Teflon Don name. People see him as the head of the Gambino crime family. He's in court, and you go into the court, and he's already about to get his verdict. And he gets off because he did some witness tampering. Or he paid off a witness, whatever. And so he gets off, and then he's walking down the steps, and he's talking to the reporters. Like, yeah, I'm the head of my family. It was in the trailer. What was he in court for? We don't know. Was he in court for Paul's death? Was he in court for what they did to the guy that hit his son with the car? I don't know. Like, I really don't know. There's so many scenes of this movie where you have like no context, and it's just a scene playing out. It is so crazy. Let's talk about the scenes in this movie that feel like they go nowhere and don't even really need to be in here. So there's the scene where his son gets into a fight at a bar. And the guy was trying to buy him and his friends some drinks. It seemed like he was trying to maybe be nice, but then when they say, no, we don't want it, then he's like, hey, you're too good to drink with me. And then the son punches him. And it turns into an all-out brawl and somebody actually dies.
Little motherfucker! Did you have a fight tonight? Did you?
Yeah.
Someone got killed. Did you know that? Did you?
No, I didn't know that.
You shut the fuck up! You cocksuckers!
Gotti comes in and goes off on him, slapping him and all that, saying that this is going to come down on the family and what have you done? This is going to follow you for the rest of your life. Apparently not, because after that scene, that never comes back again. You got, what's his face? The guy that is like best friend, the one that got put on the shelf. He's giving a speech to them. They're all kind of having this moment about this fight, and it never turns into anything. The family doesn't have more heat on them from the police. The son doesn't catch his first charge based on that bar fight or anything. It never comes back. So why is it there? There's also the part, and this part was in the trailer. Just randomly, they're at their little base of operations, the place they're always at. And one of the people that's in Gotti Jr.'s crew comes in, and Gotti tells him to come into the office, and he goes off on him, tells him he's going to park a bus up his ass sideways or whatever he said. Basically, what happened was he went to go drop off something or something, went to somebody's house and spoke to his wife when he wasn't home, and he went there. He basically went to go see somebody's wife by himself when he wasn't there, and that's that's not something that you can do. It's against the rules of the organization. And so he goes off on him and all that, but that never comes back again. It's like, well, what was the point of that? If that happens over and over again, if you're not somebody who's already somewhat familiar with this story or Gotti and the people around him and the different capos and all the different things that go into this organization, how they actually make their money, you're not going to get it from this movie, right? If it wasn't for me looking up things a couple days ago, certain things, not a lot, I would not have been able to follow this movie still, just like I wasn't able to follow it when I first saw it. It's crazy, right? It really is just a collection of scenes with no context, just randomly thrown up, just thrown up there, and then just called it a movie. This doesn't feel like a movie at all. There's no storytelling going on, right? And funny enough, because of that, and the whole thing with Kevin Connolly being the director, people have said this feels like a fake movie from Entourage. It feels like if you put, what's his name, Vinny Chase, in this movie, whether it be as John Travolta or his son or whatever, you could really have this be one of those fake movies, which most of the time look pretty bad, at least to me. You could have those fake movies in Entourage with this movie. So I went back and I listened to my old review of this movie. It's still on my Soundcloud. And I originally gave it trash. That was a mistake. I'm giving it complete shit. I'm making up for that today. This is one of the messiest movies I've ever seen. The incompetence is just all over the movie, and it feels like something that could be studied as to what not to do, at least when it comes to storytelling and editing. It's awful. It really is, and I still think it's the worst movie of that year. So anyway, that's Gotti. It's still awful. Subscribe if you want to, and we're done.